Welcome back. This is episode number 5 of me, Dr. Deb Carlin, and Swier, and we are here to talk about resilience, which is, my goodness, essential for each and every one of us, because resilience is about being able to come back from whatever knocks you out or knocks you down, and it takes place everywhere in nature. So if you're feeling knocked down or sidelined or defeated or something, you've landed in the right place, because we're going to talk to you about the reality of that, and we're going to talk to you about ways to come back. That's what we want you to do. Come on back, be resilient, be alive, be vibrant, be happy, and be healthy, right?
You just triggered me about resilience in nature. Have you ever seen when, for instance, an antelope was just attacked by a predator or something like that, and then they
Right.
escaped, and then they
Speak a
escaped.
little bit louder.
I'm sorry, let me get the microphone a little bit closer. That's maybe that's
Right.
better. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen an antelope or something like that?
A
An
nature
animal,
scene.
a
Yeah.
nature scene where the antelope was just attacked by a predator. It doesn't matter what it is, and it escaped. What it does is amazing, because they get escaped, they get clear of that animal, and then they just shake it off, and then they go about their business. That's resilience.
A percentage of the time, that's the case. And yes, it's a
Yeah,
grand
if they
example.
escape, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that that's a good one.
Yeah.
If we pay attention to the world, if we pay attention to the universe, the lessons that we need are all around us.
Yeah. And we
We
have, sorry, go ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have inbuilt resilience, and we don't realize that. We have that at our fingertips, if we want to, all the time, which is so amazing.
So, how
Because
do you think that the human being develops to understand that? When does that take place? Is that in infancy? Is that in
yeah,
utero?
I think a child has magnificent resilience. If you see a toddler or a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, well, an infant, small child who's playing, they switch from being very happy to being very sad to being annoyed to being obnoxious to being anything. Dang, 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 dang. Just goes like that, and they don't cling to it. We tend to cling to what's going wrong,
Why do
which
you think that
is
is?
such a waste of time. It's taught. I think it's conditioning. We have been conditioned that everything should be okay. Everything should be. We should be happy. We should be successful. We should be. And life isn't that way. Life can deal you some pretty nasty cards sometimes, and it does, and that's
So how
okay.
does resilience get thwarted by that perspective? Because if we're told that if we're conditioned, as you say, to be happy all the time, then wouldn't everybody just snap to and be resilient?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that we pay so much attention to what's going wrong.
Mm.
And I learned from someone who was doing some neuro research, who said, well, our brain is wired to pay attention to things that don't go well. And in 75% of the time, your brain pays attention to things that don't go well because it wants to keep you safe.
Really?
That's what she told me. I'm not sure. I don't know, but that's. Well, the problem is our brain is trying to protect us all the time, because our brain has only one goal: is to keep your body safe,
Yeah.
and it's doing its utmost to keep your body safe all the time.
Yeah.
So as soon as something is annoying you, distressing you, or giving you an uncanny feeling, or anything which is well, worry, make you worry, you say, oh, I have to pay attention to this because I need to get out of this. And the funny thing is, you don't, because it will pass. It will pass anyway, because everything passes. We don't have any control over what's happening in the world. We
So
can,
is that what resilience is? Because you make it sound like then everybody has resilience and
no,
actually,
I'm convinced we do.
well, I think that it is an opportunity. I don't see that everybody actually exercises the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because we have been conditioned by our society to perform the best possible way all the time. And that starts when you are like this, like when you start walking.
So
And
what's the difference between a person who is resilient and one who isn't? What do those two characters look like to you?
yeah, there's a beautiful description of that from, let me get his name, Jiddu Krishnamurti. He was a sage.
Say it
Uh,
again.
Jiddu Krishnamurti. He was a sage. And he said, he was asked, how can it be that you're always okay with everything what happens? And he says, well, you know what my secret is? I don't mind what happens. I do care, but I don't mind what happens. And
Wow.
I've taken that up as well. And it helps me enormously to come through situations which might be distressing. And last week we went to move my daughter, and she went from an apartment on the second floor to an apartment in a different town in the fourth floor, and there was no lift, there was no elevator. So we had to.
Why would she do that?
Well, the problem is houses are very hard to come by here in the Netherlands. We have a terrible shortage of houses, and
Really?
she was living in a house where she was planning to live with her husband, but her husband never showed up. So she had to move to a smaller house, and she found one, and uh, I got a winch to get everything upstairs, so it's okay. Everything went okay, but it was hard work.
Yeah.
I could have been bothered by that. I could have made up a whole story in my head. Oh, we have to drag all these. We have to do the washing machine and the refrigerator. We have to
Yeah.
drag it all up. Yes, we do. But if I don't worry about that, it's half the amount of energy. So life is much easier that way.
So is that resilience or is that fortitude?
The last one I didn't understand.
Is that resilience
Yeah,
or is that fortitude?
I think it's resilience. It's just not to bother too much about what's happening, because we tend to bother so much about what's happening all the time, what's going on, what's happening to us. And the
So
sad
I
thing is,
think, go ahead.
sorry, the sad thing is we are spending so much energy on that. It's a lot of costs you a lot of energy, a lot of time, which you can spend in a much better way.
So what I'm talking about in terms of resilience versus fortitude,
Yeah,
what you were exhibiting there is fortitude because you didn't get knocked down.
no,
You were diminished by the move. Your daughter was resilient by saying, okay, well, I love this house, but he's not coming. I can't be here by myself. I could either sit here and cry and lament and moan, or I could take charge. And she took charge and found this other place. That was resilient of her.
yeah,
For when you showed up, it was like, excuse me, what floor?
to
Let's
move the
stop.
house, moved in,
And and
yeah,
and you weren't knocked down by it. It's just, let's charge ahead, let's go, let's get it done. That's fortitude.
yeah,
Now,
absolutely, that too,
yeah. So, nuance on playing with the words, but
yeah.
the the thing that I think about is how um, Susan Kielbasa, Susan Kobasa. I always call her kielbasa because I love the Polish sausage.
Okay.
And um, she's a good psychologist. And when she was looking at survivors of the concentration camps from World War II,
Yeah.
That's where she came up with the concept of hardiness,
Hmm.
Hardiness, that is described as resilience.
Yeah.
Why did some people make it through the concentration camp and other people didn't? What was that factor? Well, some of it was call it fate or luck of the draw or whatever. You were selected or you weren't selected. But the fact of the matter was, some of the people that got focused on were people who were in dire situations and they didn't have to even be murdered. They could be killed by their own mind and defeatedness.
Yes.
And so that's what I think about. I also think about it, Swear, in terms of disease.
Hmm.
Some people get a diagnosis and it's catastrophic and that though it's dramatic, that's it, it's over. And they're scared, they're terrified, they're anxious, they get depressed. And when you allow that anxiety and that depression to take over, you're sunk. And anxiety is when you're knitting your brow. This is never going to become a sweater
Hmm.
or a scarf. Don't knit the brow. Don't
Knit the
knit
brow.
the
That's lovely.
brow. Smooth your forehead. Quit with the worry. A worry starts out as a thought, and then it's a concern. And then it's a mulled over concern, and then the knitting starts. Oh, I
Mhm.
think of this and this and this and this. And then that worry becomes fear. And that
Yes.
fear is the absence of faith.
Absolutely true. And it loads somewhere in your body very often. You
Yes, absolutely. It loads into your body.
and that's so sad because then you have a physical reaction to what your worry is,
Yes,
and then suddenly you get all kinds of, well, complaints.
right.
Could be an ulcer, could be high blood pressure, could be anything.
Anything.
I'm not a medic, but
Well,
what
actually,
what it does,
every physical ailment that we have is relatable to the thoughts and emotions that we have.
I
A
think so
hundred
too.
percent.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying, and yet it's also inspiring.
Yeah, it is because it can also revert. There's this really documented story about a man who had a cancer of his leg bone in his leg, and I can't recall it entirely, but what it is, the bone was being eaten away by the cancer. So at some stage he was trying everything to get better. At some stage, he found a solution. I think it was in Lourdes, in the holy water. Um, but what happened, and it's really documented with X-rays and stuff like that, that his bones started to grow again, and he's walking again. He could get out of his wheelchair because at some stage the bone was so eaten away he couldn't walk anymore, and
Mhm.
he's walking again, and it's documented. It's amazing that's really documented, and there are more stories like that. It's not the only
We,
one.
you're right. There's a world full of stories like that. One of the things that I admire about Dr. Joe Dispenza
Yeah.
is his story begins in tragedy where he's in an accident, he's never going to walk again. And from that hospital bed, he's deciding, oh, yeah, yes, I am. And it leads to all this research that he does. And I admire what he studies. We've studied along the same paths for a long period of time, but he documents it. He does good research. He measures the blood. He sees that we can have telomeres in our blood grow, elongate within a matter of hours, not months or years, and that's an indication of longevity and well-being.
Hmm.
He gets the MRIs and the PET scans and demonstrates the actual healing. And then you get people like Dr. Bruce Lipton and
Absolutely. Yeah.
the
I read into.
biology of belief, and we do very comparable measures and studies, and what we find is that repeatedly this is so fascinating. Hippocrates said the body wants to heal itself. Einstein said at some point all pharmaceuticals will not be used. What we will use is sound. We will use frequency.
Hmm.
The research that verifies that is when we measure the frequency, calibrate the frequency in any part of the body, and look at what that tumor has a frequency of,
Hmm.
what a healthy body has a frequency of, and we deliver those frequencies. We can do so much with sound to heal, which means we can also do it to make people
Yeah,
sick.
absolutely.
And I think a lot of the music that we have in our world makes people really sick.
Hmm.
Um, and I should say there's evidence that the music in our world, some of it can make people really sick. But when you stop and think about that, the frequency of every emotion is verifiable. We can measure every emotion. We can see the field of the emotion.
Hmm.
Like happiness takes up about a 5 foot perimeter. Now, don't quote me on my numbers if anybody's out there recording the measures. But but anger takes up a much larger lot. I mean, you can walk into a situation and feel the anger just riveting off of somebody,
Yeah,
vibrating
absolutely.
off of somebody.
Absolutely.
To feel the happiness, it's you got to get a little bit closer. And that's kind of neat because you do want to move in closer to somebody who's got a happy vibe, right? It's like, I don't know, just
Absolutely.
snuggle in over there. Oh, danger over there. I don't want to
Yeah,
go over that way. So the field ought to be larger. But what that tells us and what we would be really wise to think about is the reality that that being the case, what do we want to step into? Do we want to step into bad news or do we want to always say, I can't afford to go negative like that. I want to be exercising this inner spirit of resilience
absolutely.
because I can't do it this other way. It's too ugly.
No. And that's why I always tell my clients is stop paying attention to non-helping thoughts.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't go
And
there.
what
And you can
exercise do
teach
you
it. You
give them
can
to what trick and exercise do you give
the
them? What
trick the
tool?
trick is how does it feel? How does the thought at the origin feel? Does it feel okay? Then carry on. Please do. If it doesn't feel okay, well, first check whether it's not a crisis. Well, it could be something critical you have to respond to. Like the dogs you said we talked about last time. You said, "Oh, there's this dog," and yeah. But if that's not the case, if you're safe, if there's nothing going, just discard the thought. Don't pay attention, and you can train your brain to do that. You can train your brain to discard those thoughts. And what happened to me at some stage that my brain absolutely went blank at some stage. What's going on? No thought anymore. My brain's not working anymore. No, I'm discarding all those non-helping thoughts, which gives me additional thinking capacity and additional energy to pay attention to things that help me, that feel
So
at
what
least
is
okay.
so what is the training for training your brain?
The training is be aware of what you are feeling. How is your feeling right now? Is it neutral? Okay, we can take on neutral. That's fine. But if it's less than neutral, and you can discern that, you can discern the difference between not less than neutral and neutral. And it makes if the thought makes you happy, go for it, enjoy it to the fullest. And the fun thing is, you can teach yourself not to pay attention to those non-helping thoughts. It is doable. I taught it myself. It's really doable. It's just a matter of not paying attention to what's good, because we tend to pay attention to those non-helping thoughts because it gives you the illusion that we are safe when we pay attention to it. That's not true. It's just a waste of
It
energy
gives
and
the
time.
illusion that we're safe if we pay attention to it.
Yeah, that gives us the illusion that we're safer when we pay attention to things that this discomfort us. But we all sometimes have discomforting thoughts. All of us. Me too. But I've taught myself not to pay too much attention to it. And the fun thing is, what you do is you open up your blinders. Because as soon as you pay attention to something which is worrying you or distressing you, you pay attention to it and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can't see anything else at some stage. Which is such a shame because you're wasting so much time and energy on spending on something which isn't really directly threatening you. It's
So
only a
what,
thought. It's just a thought. Nothing yet, nothing. It's how much volt is a thought in your brain? 1 microvolt? I don't know. Something like that. It's tiny. And we are depending our lives on it. Is that crazy? We're making our life dependent on that non-helping thought.
but um I understand the point that you're making, but to tell people just change it. I don't I haven't had the experience of having people understand how to do that when they're stuck. They need a tool.
Yeah, and the
So
tool
do you
is,
have
yeah,
tools that you use?
yeah, the tool is simply your feeling. Your feeling is infallible. You know if something is okay or not. If it's not okay, discard it. As long as it's not directly threatening you. If a bus is driving towards you, you step aside, of course. Or something is threatening you, someone's threatening you, you run. Fine. But most of the time, those non-helping thoughts are just nothing more than that, a non-helping thought. Most
But
of the
do you
time,
give
though.
people a tool like a meditation or a prayer or a
No,
song?
no, it's so simple. It's your feeling. Your feeling is infallible. It's really infallible. Your feeling gives you an idea. Oh, this is not okay. Oh, is it really threatening me? No, it isn't. Okay, well, let's go. Let's see what's going. Let me focus my attention on something else. Just let it go. Don't pay attention to it. It's just as simple as that. And the fun thing is, I had a terrific example. I had this client of mine who had been using DMT. I think I told you before. For some reason, his brain thought he needed the hallucinations he experienced during his trip on DMT. It grew into a habit. So as soon as he was driving his car, he got all these lighter versions of hallucinations, which were things he was seeing flying at him who weren't there.
Oh, I remember you talking about this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told him this is just a habit you've created from your brain. Your brain has made a decision somewhere that you need this, and it will rerun that all the time as soon as you are getting into the situation because there's some association with that. So if you will you trust me enough that if I don't see it, it's not there.
Right. And you got in the car and you told him you didn't see it. And then
Yeah,
he recovered. So he recovered from that.
and recovered from that. And it's just a matter of not paying attention to what's your
But
brain is
see, the
throwing at you.
tool is that you have to be there to guide the person through that. Otherwise, they don't know how to do
This
that.
was a very difficult situation. But most of the time I have conversations with people. I do it in 3 conversations, and most of the time after three conversations they pop. They say, "Oh yeah, of course, that's how I do it." Just not paying attention to it. Do something else. Divert your attention to something. Don't pay attention to that non-helping thought because it will only eat your energy and time away. That's all it is.
So being emphatic and um, insistent is the
Hmm.
solution.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's perseverance.
Okay.
It's perseverance. You have to keep up.
Okay. Okay.
So what you do
They,
is you train your brain not to pay attention to those non-helping thoughts,
okay.
and that's the trick, really.
Well, the trick for us now is to close out the show.
It's already. Oh my God, this
Yeah.
is so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So until next time, remember you're resilient, you have fortitude, train your brain. No more caca in your head. Just say toodaloo as we do. So
Okay.
see you next week, Sphere.
Thank you very much, Deb. It was wonderful again. See you
Yeah,
next
bye
week. Bye
bye.
bye.